Big thanks to the producers who make this mess possible. I've always found the resurgence of Fallout New Vegas the last few years to be really interesting, mostly because, as someone who was there at the time when the deep magic was written, I remember Fallout New Vegas being pretty much written off by the game journos as being just Fallout 3+.
IGN picked Fallout 3 as its Game of the Year back in 2008. 2 years later, we have Fallout New Vegas, but it often feels like a giant expansion for Fallout 3 rather than an all-new game.
New Vegas was almost incredibly special. Instead, you'll have to settle for simply a very good role-playing game that didn't quite reach its potential.
Which really goes to show why they lost credibility.
Fallout New Vegas is more Fallout 3.
But in the discourse surrounding this game in 2025, I feel like it's often lost in between the ravenous fans of the Legion and the NCR what the actual best option for the Mojave Wasteland is. And it's their good old benevolent overlord, Robert House. Stick around if you want to know why. Thank you guys so much for watching as always. Hit the link in the description if you want to help me not be homeless. Always appreciate it, guys. My name is Richard, and I am so glad that you could be here today. Oh, two quick qualifiers as well. The Discord is not a Patreon-only thing. You can join it. Please feel free to come and yell at me about why I'm wrong about this video. And if you join the Patreon at the $10 a month tier, you too can become a producer and get your name at the beginning of the videos. I reserve the right not to do it at the serious ones though. Like maybe if there's like a video on Gaza, I feel like it's not going to be super helpful. But speaking of uninhabitable wastelands, before we even get into why Mr. House is the best option, we first need to analyze why the two major factions that everyone likes to choose are the worst options. So to start out, why is the Legion not the best choice? Well, I mean, the crucifixions don't help. The Legion shares a lot more flaws with the NCR as far as their push for Hoover Dam than they'd often like to admit. Their supply lines are stretched thin, they're pretty much reliant on raiding the local territories for food and supplies, or raiding NCR caravans. And though they certainly do have a certain gusto within their soldiers that gives them an edge, they're having their own crisis of leadership within their ranks. The replacement of the Malpais legate with a brutal dictator is what you'd probably expect from a Roman allegory in decline at around this point, having lost its first major battle. But on top of that, in an interesting little bit of dialogue with Caesar, you can find out that he's anxious to see his head of his Praetorian Guard, Lucius, be killed and replaced by a new challenger. And I struggle to believe Caesar, a man who's twice Lucius's age, how exactly having more brutal leaders within your ranks allows you to actually run the empire better. But again, this is what we'd expect from a Roman allegory on the decline. Caesar tried to adapt the old world, the very old world, and he got all of its flaws as well. The Legion might be cool in-game, but they're not administrators, they're not leaders, and ultimately, even if they do manage to take the dam, they'll just inevitably fracture into a group of warring, raving clans as the actual Roman Empire did after its decline. Little generals and painted gods will spill blood and spoil the sacred earth, as it has always been. And that's before we get into the fact that they're technologically inferior to every other faction. Like, I know they're cool in-game, and again, they certainly have morale, but let's be totally transparent about this. The Legion is a group of literal spear chuckers fighting sci-fi robots from the future. They will get slaughtered. The average Legion trooper in-game has to be given like 4 times the amount of health of an average NCR trooper, and they still sometimes lose. And once you strip away the game mechanics, put them into the real world, all that zealousness, all that gusto, all that brotherhood, fighting in arms, and devotion to Caesar won't matter much when some dipshit farm boy from California puts a 5.56 in their chest. It ain't gonna make that football padding bulletproof. So yeah, the Legion is out. They are, again, thematic and cool in game, but they're not leaders. They probably wouldn't even take the dam, and honestly, a lot of the game has to be bent in order to... a lot of logical things have to be ignored. A lot of game mechanics have to be twisted just to give them a chance at being able to take the dam. So let's talk about the faction that actually has a shot at deposing Mr. House if you let them, the NCR. And why are they not the best thing for the Mojave? Well, much like Caesar got all the flaws of the very old world, the NCR got the flaws of the old world when they tried to adapt it. The corruption... yeah, that's most of it. Please prepare yourselves here, and don't freak out. I am going to levy a small critique at Fallout Sunburst. I know, I love Fallout Sunburst too, but it's just a small one. I feel like projects like it often categorize the NCR as this formal fighting force. And like, the NCR military, yes, is a fighting force, but you always have to look at what a fighting force is designed to do. The NCR did not walk into the wasteland as an offshoot of the US Army like the Brotherhood. They are not a coalition of conquered tribes, equally brutal to when they were conquered like Caesar's Legion. The new California Republic is a confederacy of trading towns. It is a trade-based empire. That is its goal. It is expansionist, yes. It is militarist, yes, but only insofar as it protects its ability to trade and garner wealth. Being an NCR trooper does not mean storming trenches. It means walking the barren wasteland back and forth, guarding train tracks and water caravans as you make sure all the trade routes remain open until you start to wish for a nuclear winter. And, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily a critique of the NCR. They're not that much of a fighting force, but they don't really need to be. Their military is not designed to, you know, storm a Brotherhood of Steel stronghold. No wonder they took so many casualties. Their military is designed to guard trading caravans and keep them safe, and turn dipshit farm boys from California into competent enough soldiers that they can fight off the occasional gangs roving the trade routes, or maybe a tribal or two. That's really it. They don't have that big of a fighting force. They do have the NCR Rangers, who are actually competent, but they're pretty low in number and they tend to work alone. And you might be saying to yourself, well, I, a dedicated NCR player, made sure to set things up in their favor as much as I could, turning Mr. House's Securitrons in favor of the NCR, securing power for them at Helios 1 by fixing the power station. I, a dedicated NCR player, would make sure the Mojave was set up for success as best I could. And to that I say, you forgot about the corruption. Even if the NCR wins the battle for Hoover Dam, because the courier does all the work for them. You think those Securitrons are gonna stay in the Mojave long term? Hell no! They're gonna get their asses shipped back to California, along with all the repair facilities and all of Mr. House's technology when they're done scraping whatever they can that's of use, and they're gonna ship it back to guard President Kimball and all of his cronies. And all the wealth and all the extra power you took from Helios 1 will be used as political leverage by President Kimball, or whoever takes his place after him. All the resources you secure in order to help them out, all the things you do to make sure they're set up, will just become resources that get shipped back to California, because that's how the NCR works. Putting the Mojave in the hands of the NCR is subjecting the Mojave to be stripped for parts. But there is one leader who cares about the Mojave. Yeah, we had to get back to him at some point. Why is Mr. House the best? Well, he actually cares about New Vegas, for one. Sure, there are some issues with Freeside, but he does give you carte blanche as his personal representative to handle that situation as you see fit. So you want to go and help the people of Freeside or Western Vegas or Good Springs? House won't stand in your way, nor will he go and strip those towns for parts as soon as you get done helping them. Listening to how he talks about the different factions of the Mojave, he actually does have intelligent, sober takes on each and every one of them. And he is content to let you, as the player, handle them as you see fit, being the sort of extension of his will. You maintain the most agency in a Mr. House-dominated Mojave, which means you can be as good or as evil to any of the factions as you would like. All the while, the actual, you know, the minutia, the economic future of Vegas, the security concerns, those are all taken care of by Vegas's benevolent overlord, who, by the way, did also save Vegas from nuclear Armageddon with a missile defense system that he bought personally. He is one of the smartest men to ever live. He has an army of robots that put the Brotherhood of Steel to shame, and we know how many people the NCR lost trying to fight them. And quite frankly, a independent state, sort of like Belgium, nestled between two great powers, is probably the best option for these two nations. The Legion has to stop and actually focus on its own administration. Probably the best thing for it. It means years of restlessness and possibly falling apart into a bunch of warring city-states and kingdoms. But if the Legion can be stopped while Caesar is still alive, chances of that are minimized, though they never go away. And the NCR being stopped and pushed back at the Colorado River is actually the best thing for them. they can also consolidate their gains. The Rangers won't have to lose a whole lot more people fighting off the Legion constantly. They can just pick them off from across the river. This is the best thing for both of the two major powers fighting over the region, as well as the best thing for the region itself. Mr. House is the best option in Fallout New Vegas. And I know I ignored Yes Man, but let's be honest here. Some dipshit courier really shouldn't be running Vegas. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Go to the comment section, let me know how wrong I am. I am sure you guys have some very interesting points. And I am absolutely 100% open to the idea of doing a part 2 where I just answer questions from the comment section specifically. So please leave them down there, make them well thought out, and I will absolutely make that video if you guys are down for it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You have been amazing. I have been Richard, and I'll see you in the next one.